What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. We are happy Tuesday to everyone out there. We have a very small 2-game slate, and we're going to try and talk through it and see if we can find some ways to get different for tournaments. You guys know who watch the show mostly. I'm not a cash game player, and Sheets doesn't really play cash games. I will throw in some cash game lineups or some triple ups and things like that. This is a slate where if you are playing cash games, first of all, I wouldn't suggest doing that. But most of what we'll be focusing on is tournaments and ways to get different with the chalk that we want to play. That's my take anyway.
So again, I was thinking of like not even doing anything, but you know what? I mean, my biggest cash this year in NBA so far has been in the 2-game slate, and I'm pretty sure Bobby's one of them at least is his.
No, that was my third biggest cash, but yes, it was a bit.
Yeah. So the thing I described when we went over it afterwards is the 2-game slates. You really only need a couple of hoodoos. You know what I mean? You don't need to go completely bananas, and you don't even need to like intentionally leave money on the table. You know what I mean? Like you just need a couple of little things. That's really all you need. Trust me. So don't go out of your way to say, okay, now I gotta just go 100%. I'm just calling a name out. Like Isaiah Hartenstein or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
You can get this done. And it's don't get frustrated about it. I mean, just because it's a 2-game slate doesn't mean there's necessarily going to be a 100-way tie. I mean, I go back to the 2-game slate I won recently. I was in first by myself, but even in second, it was like a tie for four places. Then in third, there's a tie for whatever. So if you could try to get unique without going too bananas, I think you can do something.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's get into it. We'll go game by game, and then we'll talk about specific sites. Obviously, it's not going to be a very long show because there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I do think there's some interesting pivots that I've gone through so far off of the chalk. So we'll start off with DraftKings here. Let's start off with the OKC side of things. So you're going to have the massive chalk in, Roby, which again, I'm all for. I'm just going to play it. I don't care. There's certain spots where I'm willing to do something else. But look, you're going to get, the problem is you're not getting any discount on, in terms of, you get some discount on ownership, but it's not like Muscala is not going to be owned either. But I think this is a slate where you play those two guys together. I think that this OKC Denver game, sort of my first thought on DraftKings, and this, look, you have to try and play a different way, try and do something different. So I sort of am running a game stack with the top guys from Denver, but really running like 4 bench guys or 4, middling plays from OKC, 2 to go with Roby and Muscala, and hoping this game does blow out and you get the production from those other guys. Because that's the not the best way, but maybe the coolest way maybe it is the best way to try and get different, in my opinion. So starting with Roby and Muscala as the obvious plays that are interesting. Sheets, who else do you like here, and what are we going to do to try and make this different?
So just as a disclosure, I mean, I haven't run any projections. This is really just my eyeballing it and just kind of gut instinct of what I think these guys should be, and the way, with that said, like staring at OKC, like I would almost rather but yeah, you could play those guys like you could play Roby, you could play Muscala. I don't know, like on the Denver side, I see PJ Dozier at 3,900.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to play, he can get some blowout run and he can get some regular run too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the first name that kind of stands out as somebody that maybe not everybody's going to play. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of with you with the idea that this could be kind of ugly. Can you get enough raw points without playing Jokic? You know what I mean? Like that's the problem.
Do you need to? I guess is the other part of it.
Right. I mean, can you play him and say, okay, I'll give me my 3/4 of my 50 fantasy points and be done with it?
Yeah, like that's the thing is I don't think he needs to do much for you to get there on this kind of a slate. Look, to be honest, the next game, I'm surprised at the spread. The spread in this game is 10 or 9.5 right now. The spread in the Utah New Orleans game is only 6, which actually surprises me with the way that Utah's been just creaming people and playing really, really good basketball.
What's Shea? Let's be Shea's 8,700. I'm not doing that.
So Shea's 8,700, and if he was not going to be 40-50% owned, I would be happy to do that. But there are other ways I think we can get different that make a little bit more sense to me. And look, the ways that I'm getting different here, I'm just going to throw it out there on OKC because that is what I'm using to get different. and we'll get into FanDuel later, but I'm into the taking a shot with Kenrich Williams.
Ooh, here we go.
Kenrich Williams has put up 25 and 27 in the last 2 games. One was a blowout where he got some blowout running against the Lakers, but he played really well. We've seen this story before with him in New Orleans. The guy hustles, he plays hard. Once the coaches sort of like put him in, it's sort of hard for them to not keep playing him. So then he comes back in Chicago, and I know some of it's overtime, but the fact that he played the overtime and all these guys were healthy, he played against Chicago. He played 27 minutes and he put up 27 fantasy points. It's a pretty good matchup. He's going to be completely unowned. And between him and Maladon, that's where I'm looking at trying to get a little bit creative with their side of it. Those guys will be pretty much unowned. I think even like Pokusevski is going to have some ownership just as people try and get pivots off the other guys, which is fine too. But I think he'll have a little bit even more ownership. I don't know. He'll have more ownership than these guys. So Maladon, Williams, and then of course our guy Diallo with some respect, hoping it turns into a blowout-ish type of game. But even if it doesn't, they all have a chance to play their way into more minutes. And that would mean, the one thing that sort of is bothering me is that Dort is going to be low owned too. And I think as of right now, and I think, I'd rather just do that. But at the same time, he's not going to be like unowned like Kenrich Williams. He's not going to be, I think, pretty close on FanDuel on DraftKings to pretty low owned on like Maladon. So that's sort of what I'm looking to do. Play those guys. You can mix in George Hill. So I've right now got like my first build. I think I have. Let me just see real quick. Yeah, I've got Murray and Jokic, and then I've got 5 Thunder. Basically, that's it.
You could play. That's the thing. You could justify a lot of these guys. I think you need to.
I would probably need to go 4 if I wanted to feel comfortable and then get some more. But I think playing all those, like Baisley's, you're not going to get. I mean, he hasn't done anything in forever, and he's sort of been phased out for some of these other guys. And he's going to be 30% owned. They're all going to be owned except for the guys I mentioned. And there is a very good chance those guys get run. The problem is, do you play them all together? Well, maybe you do if you really think the game blows out. And I think there's a good enough chance where that might be exactly what I do. So, down the stretch, the fact that they haven't played Baisley to close they got blown out by the Lakers, but the last game that he didn't close against Chicago, he didn't play the overtime. And Kenrich Williams did, and he's going to be 30% owned, and he's 2,100 more. Give me the shots on Kenrich Williams.
Yeah, what do you like? I asked you about this before the last game when he busted. What you like JaMychal Green at all?
I do like JaMychal Green. I always like JaMychal Green. Getting to the Denver side, I think you just try to play Jokic. I do think Murray's going to be one of the lower owned maybe the 20s. He always is. And people the other night, I got some messages, some DMs like, how could you play Murray? All the rankings say he's
great.
I'm like, that's exactly why you play it. Everything's going to tell you not to. And also, in that particular matchup with Murray, we've seen that story before. And in this particular case, he's just going to be lower owned than the other guys who are in his price range. And I feel like his range of outcomes, while it might have a higher variance, the upside is much greater. So I would rather fade Will Barton. I would rather fade this other stuff. But I do want to get the raw points from Jokic, and then I want to get my Murray goes off potential love. And I do think JaMychal Green is an awesome play on the comeback. I just think that he's going to be pretty high owned too.
Yeah. So we got to find that Lou Williams. We got to find that sub 10% guy who actually has a chance.
I think Kenrich Williams is one of those guys.
Okay.
I genuinely do. And there's another guy we'll get to in the next game that I think really does. But Kenrich Williams and Hamidou Diallo, those are your shots right there, right? Like,
yeah. And you really think that it's necessary to play Roby?
I mean, look, you can fade him, and if you do, you fade him and you play. But I think that you want to play one of he or Pokusevski.
I'm telling you, I've really looked. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of just being devil's advocate, sort of.
One of the 3 bigs, just because there's literally not anybody else on this team that has the size to even try to guard Jokic, which they won't be able to do. But you've got Roby, Muscala, and Pokusevski. You could make an argument that it increases the chances for foul trouble. But what do they go to after that? Do they maybe play Dort against he can guard 4s, you know what I mean? And then maybe they just play Muscala instead of playing Muscala and Pokusevski together. But it's somewhere between 2 of those 3. I think you want to be playing in most of your lineups just because the size Denver has. And I understand there's high ownership, but like I said, if I'm going to be playing, a stack of this game, if I'm going to play Kenrich Williams and Hamidou Diallo and Maladone with Roby and Muscala, that's fine with me. I mean, I don't mind eating a little bit of chalk if I'm going so far off the board in the other spots. And I think that Dort is I don't know if these early projections can be right, because like I just don't think people are going to ignore him so much after putting up 50 in the last game.
Yeah.
On a 2-game slate, but he's the other one you'd want to get some exposure to.
So what this is 5 OKC's guys. This is with the Baisley. This is like with I can say the normal guys, but like the Baisley, Dort, Diallo, who I know are going to play. Chalky Roby, and then Williams would be the hoodoo sort of. I mean, I'm not going to play 5 OKCs, but who knows? Maybe that's what you're supposed to do.
I have 4. I actually have 4. I shouldn't have said 5. I do.
Yeah, I like that instinctively without even looking at the price tags yet. I'm gonna scroll to them in a second. I mean, you would think that this other game is better, right?
The New Orleans, Utah.
Yeah.
But you would until you look at the pricing.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, I guess.
Yeah, it gets a little bit weird.
So is Lonzo playing?
So Lonzo is supposed to play.
Yeah, he's probable now.
Which makes all of the guys who we've just been playing awesome tournament plays. The tough one for me is that if Lonzo's out, what I'll tell you right now, if you want to get different, I don't know if there's a better option to try and get different than Kira Lewis here.
Who?
Kira Lewis, he's their rookie. They drafted this guy ahead of Halliburton, but he's good. He just doesn't have any room. They've got 19 guards on this team.
Yeah, so I know.
It's hard for him to get in, But Kira Lewis, I mean, this kid's talented. Got his highest minutes yet in the last game in a tight one against Sacramento. Only 15 minutes, but still, second highest minutes of the season. And this, there's a lot of people I've heard talking about how they're going to try and let him go out a little bit because they've been losing games. They're struggling. There's no reason for them not to try and mix it up. And the other one I want to play is, if Lonzo is in, I want to play Nickeil Alexander-Walker at no ownership.
That's the guy I was looking at.
He'll come off the bench. He's probably going to play, his projection will probably say 20 to 24 minutes. I think there's upside on those minutes. I think he could play as well into a better spot. So those are sort of my get weird plays on New Orleans. And the other one would be Josh Hart. Again, sort of a similar to Dort thing, although Dort's shown a little more upside recently. But Josh Hart will be forgotten about. He hasn't been good in these last games. Maybe it didn't really benefit. I mean, look at most of these guys' numbers. They actually were better with Lonzo on the court. So it sort of it's kind of a funny thing to look at. But those are my get weird plays on New Orleans. And then the obvious plays are, Zion or Ingram. Ingram's price on DraftKings to me.
Yeah, it's tough to do, isn't it?
It makes it hard to do. But then if you want to, that also makes it hard for other people to do. So I actually think Ingram has a better matchup here. I'm a little bit worried because here's the thing with Zion's fantasy production and why it hasn't been what we hoped for. You look at the last game, for example, Zion goes 13 of 15 from the floor, makes all of his free throws, but he only has 6 rebounds. And Zion should be a double-double guy. His rebounding has been destroyed a little bit between 2 odd, funny guys. I mean, Steven Adams being one of them, and the other one being what's his name? Josh Hart. Josh Hart, I think, actually is averaging almost as many, if not more, rebounds than Zion at this point. Now, that's going to kill your production. If you're not getting those double-doubles, it's going to make a big difference. He also has almost no steals and blocks, which lends itself to what I've been saying all year. He's had a couple good steal games, but I think he's only got 5 blocks in the year. And this is a guy who should be averaging more than like a block and a half a game. His production is down because I don't think he's in shape yet. But I still think you want to play one of these guys, and Zion is going to be more popular because he's cheaper. He makes sense to me. I do think Ingram is the better tournament upside play. But if you're getting weird with the other spots, you can play Zion.
Okay.
Want to jump over to Utah?
Yeah. So, boy, oh boy, they're real pains in the ass. These pricings, this pricing.
Exactly, yeah. And normally we would say, okay, well, that means we could take some shots on some tournament guys and get some low ownership and all that. I don't think that's going to happen. The one guy who stands out, and it's obvious, and I'll add a little extra thing to this guy. Not that he needs. I'm telling you, though, if you can get this guy shooting the ball an extra 3 or 4 times early in the game, you're going to be in some serious business. And that's Jordan Clarkson, obviously. His price is going to make people want to stay off of him.
How can you play him at 6,500?
Well, I played him the other day at 6,300 on a real slate. So
yeah, I guess so. Huh?
I certainly can consider it on a 2-game slate against his former teammates / the guys who they gave up for. they basically gave him up and they kept those guys as their core to keep for Anthony Davis trade. But before that, I mean, to try and
that is true. That's right.
And you want to find these things, like I mentioned when he's played against D'Angelo Russell, that there is those kind of rivalries exist, and not that he has bad things with any of these guys. I've actually always heard they like Clarkson, but that's a competitive dude who, if he's going to take any extra shots, he's well in play. We don't know about Ingles yet. I'm going to guess as of right now that he probably doesn't play, but if he does, I think we could just play Joe Ingles at low ownership too. What do you think?
Yeah, the other guy I would bring up. Gobert is just too cheap. He's 7,600. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be the most popular player, isn't he? I mean, like,
no, the most popular player is going to be like Roby.
I guess if people are going to play Roby and Jokic together, maybe Rudy Gobert will go down the list a little bit.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that I think Jokic is going to be so much more popular that it's going to actually make Gobert, but he'll still be in the 40s probably.
And the other guy, again, I'll go back to the guy who won me. I mean, he held it together for me in the 2-game where I won last week. Was Favors. I mean, this is his former teammate too, isn't it? I don't know, maybe.
Yep.
I don't know. He doesn't really do much. He only gets like 15, 16 minutes, whatever. But I mean, I don't know.
No, I 100%. He's one of the guys I'm considering. I think that the problem is he's a center. If he had power forward eligibility, you could definitely talk me into it, because Utah plays big. New Orleans plays really big. They're playing Zion and Steven Adams together so much of the time that you can actually see a way that the two bigs play them. The problem is Royce O'Neal is such a good defender that he ends up being able to guard him. So is
Bojan still free on FanDuel or no?
Bojan on FanDuel, he's actually, now his price is actually like evened out. It's $5K on FanDuel. He's small forward now instead of power forward. He's 5.3. I actually think he's an interesting play. I really worry about this game a little bit because of the way New Orleans has looked and the way Utah has looked lately. But Vegas is saying it'll stay close. We only have 2 games to choose from.
I don't know about that. And Lonzo was out those games.
Yeah. I mean, but even before that, they just don't look quite right. And they play really slow. Oddly, it's weird to see Utah in a matchup against the Pelicans and say, oh, Utah is a pace-up spot for the Pelicans. The Pelicans have been the fastest team in NBA history like the last 4 years.
Not anymore, though, right?
Not anymore. Nope. Different coach. You got a different strategy here. So to highlight just real quickly on DraftKings, the guys who I'd like as sort of the off-the-board pivots, they're the fringe pieces from OKC, and then they're the going back to the guards, even though Lonzo is back for New Orleans. Lonzo, if he was going to be unowned, I would say go ahead and play him. He's going to be really popular on FanDuel. I'm just going to skip him entirely today.
Well, I'm going to go over there to FanDuel and check that out.
Yeah, so let's jump over to FanDuel, and I mean, I think that's a pretty good idea. Also, Monty Morris is another good play, but he's going to have some ownership. Paul Millsap, the one guy I didn't mention, he's 4,500, and he basically gets 20 fantasy points plus. He averages over 20. There's definitely 40 fantasy point upside, and if things break his way. So he's the other one I just wanted to mention because he's going to be low on.
So on FanDuel, going position by position, there are not too many entries. I'm just going to go straight down to the first guy you mentioned. Not the first guy you mentioned. I don't think you need to play Kira Lewis if you could play Thiago Maledon at the same price, whatever that's worth.
I agree.
The other thing is that the Bledsoe's a little more havable. Actually, they all are, right?
So I guess I would say about the Kira Lewis versus Maledon is maybe if Lonzo is out, I think that maybe I think they're actually pretty close.
I'm not playing Conley. Ball is pretty cheap, isn't he? I mean, I don't know. But he's gonna be he's gonna be the stone chalk, isn't he, on FanDuel?
Yeah, and what's weird is that even when he's healthy, just go through his freaking game log if you don't believe me. Like, this guy put up over 30 twice in the last 7.
Good. It's got a good matchup though.
He is a good matchup, but I mean, what's it good for? Because his thing is he's good at creating and attacking the basket. Creating for others, and he's not going to beat you with a million threes unless he has a really, really hot night. George Hill's the obvious play to me on both sides. Actually, I didn't really mention that one much before. Conley. The cool thing is it's going to be sort of spread between Conley, Morris, Murray, Bledsoe. So you can sort of go any of these ways. The only guy who's really going to have significant, like really low ownership on FanDuel is going to be Maladon that you can consider. So therefore, I'm going to play Maladon on FanDuel. And if by the way, if Lonzo's out, I will consider a Maladon and Kira Lewis lineup together. I mean, I know you said only 2 spots, but that to get to it weird. That's true, but those are 2 really, really weird ways to get weird. And if you could somehow get like 45 out of those 2, your whole lineup construction is just so different. It's going to give you an opportunity.
2 guys that stand out to me at shooting guard, might just stare at it. I mean, is certainly the guy you mentioned is Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 4,900. And also Diallo, I guess, at 4,500. I mean, those are the guys that stand out. I mean, obviously, there are only like 5 choices, right?
Right.
So those are the 2 guys, I guess. Maybe they won't be as high. Again, if all these guys play, like you said, for New Orleans, I think that regardless of that, I think Walker has not cemented, but he's made a really good case that he should be constantly getting minutes of some kind, right?
Right.
So even if he's leading the second unit or something like that, that's good enough for me.
Well, I like that very much because I think he's going to be very low owned tonight if there's no Lonzo. If Lonzo's out, he's going to be like the nut. The
I mean, what could you do? You could do like your second unit stack. You could go not stack. You could do your Nickeil Alexander-Walker with Jordan Clarkson.
Right, exactly. I like something like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's exactly how I thought about it as well.
Oh my God! Look at small forward. So I guess this Ingram has all the raw points, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard not to play him on FanDuel.
But and I guess the chalk construction is going to be with Bojan, I suppose, right?
I think that Will Barton will be.
Oh well, here we go. So let's do it. Let's get to the Kenrick.
Yeah, it's a little for me. I found it a little bit harder on FanDuel, only because I can get different with Dort at 1,500 more, who I feel much more comfortable with. And they're both going to be extremely low owned because I think everybody's playing a combination of Ingram, Barton, Bogdanovich, and then they'll also include some Ingles and some Hart. I don't think anybody's playing these other guys.
I like the Dort. I think that's a good one, actually.
Yeah, to get him at low ownership, I mean, look, the guy just scored 50. I don't know if that's really going to hold, but that's where I have him early in the day, and I sort of see why, but I don't know if he's really going to be as low owned as these early projections are telling us.
Staring at my God, power forward. Yeah. So from the bottom up, I guess you want your Polagevsky, Muscala, Jermichael Green. They're all bad. Zion you gotta just play him, right? I mean, he's just gonna get more points than the rest of the position combined, right? I mean, he's just gonna.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to not play him.
Yeah, I do think on FanDuel you can skip Roby over here if you want to and play Baisley. I know that I just said those things about Baisley, but that's talking about them at a huge price difference, not a 700 price difference. And Baisley, it's not like Roby's been just crushing Baisley so far in production, and I don't think that Baisley will stay where he is. I think he's banged up still. So but I think that you could play Baisley at what's going to be lower ownership than Roby at just a few $100 or $700 more. And I would rather do that or play Millsap personally.
Is time to do any funny business with stuff like, I guess you don't need to. So like Jackson Hayes or
for center?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hard to build the rest of your lineup with doing that, giving up the raw points. I think that
that's what I mean.
I think you're going to want to play one of, probably
one
Jokic.
of the top 2 guys, probably.
Jokic and Gobert or but then, Steven Adams won't be very high owned. You can go that direction. And then you could use your boy Favors. I think I would prefer all those guys above Jackson Hayes. The one thing about the Jackson Hayes, though, that it could be interesting is that, Steven Adams, we've seen him get in foul trouble before.
Yeah, we've seen his back. You know what I mean? Like we've seen him kind of like resting before. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's the idea.
Maybe taking a shot with Jackson Hayes. I don't think it's a bad idea, actually. I can get behind that.
Is he like legit the backup center? I mean,
and this game he will be because they need to see. So they're going to need to match up with a big body. So, like you've got obviously Gobert, who's a big guy. They don't really have. I mean, you could use Zion, obviously, which is what I think they should have been doing.
He's just not getting 20 fantasy points.
It's unlikely, but I don't think it's out of the realm of question. And he's actually been pretty consistently playing playing well in the minutes he has gotten. He just also, I mean, he literally might not play like more than like 3 minutes. Like
Steven Adams is so freaking consistent. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's yeah. The only thing is here with the foul trouble, and if he's playing well and the team in and the blowout possibility and all of that, that's the argument for Jackson. But I'm sorry for Jackson Hayes. But I personally think I'm just going to put Jokic at my center. I'm just going to play Jokic today. And look, I've mentioned a bunch of different ways to get different. Jokic is not one of the on this slate that I'm willing to give up just the raw like floor of 50 fantasy points probably.
Well, the interesting thing is that the two positions I mentioned were like kind of like, oh my God, how do you not play this guy? And both of them come from the same game. So maybe so one of them you can kind of now say get rid of. So between Ingram at small forward and Zion at power forward, you do have to I mean, it's a 2-game slate. You could play them both, I suppose.
Wait, say that one more time.
I mean, normally I would say you don't really want to play Ingram and Zion in the same lineup.
Oh yeah, here it doesn't matter.
But here it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do this like kind of like raw points construction here, where you do Ingram, Zion, and Jokic, and then just basically just cram in everything low owned you could possibly dream up. You know what I mean? Like.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a weird slate, guys. We're not going to be doing the later show today, but I think it gives you maybe some ideas of different.
You never know. I might sneak on in there.
All right. Well, Sheets might sneak on in there, but
We'll
but
see.
I'm going to be up in Santa Barbara today, so I'm not going to be back. But yeah, I think that I don't want to say it's interesting, but I like that there are a couple of ways to get different that maybe other people won't consider. Another thing is playing Muscala. We didn't talk about on FanDuel over Roby. I think that's an interesting way to go, and he's going to have less ownership. And then you could also play JaMychal Green. We didn't mention him really either.
Well, like something like this, for example. I mean, this is all 3 guards. I don't want to play all 3 guards from New Orleans. Although not many people are going to do that, I suppose. I guess for good reason.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'll try to come up with something. If I show up by 8 o'clock. But again, don't go too nuts. Just pick a couple of guys. I think we've outlined a couple, right? You could play Dort as something different. You could play Nickeil Alexander-Walker as something different. You could play Muscala as something different. So you don't have to go completely bananas. Yeah,
Maladon, even like Clarkson's not going to be as high owned because of his price. So I think he's kind of interesting. But yeah, there's a lot you can do here. There's not, no options on a 2-game slate like sometimes people think. And there's definitely a path where these other guys can all get there. The Kenrich one is the one I feel the least comfortable with that I'm doing, but I think that it's worth that shot, especially on DraftKings. I really like that, and then playing the backup, whatever minutes. It's a weird build over there, but I would like to get a little bit more of, I don't know. I would like to get a little bit more Dort. I think I'm just going to probably stick with him more on FanDuel because I think he's going to be really low owned over there. All right. Sheets, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I guess that's good. Good. We will. If I don't see you later, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
That's it.
Hey, good luck to everybody out there. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. And bankroll management is key tonight. Don't go crazy with this.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
I'll talk to you later.